Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Deger. I'm one of the founders and CEO of Payworks. Today, I want to talk about how we as Payworks are delivering a global point-of-sale solution. In the program, it says pan-European. I don't know where that came from, but it's more on a global scale. Who has heard about Payworks before? Arms up. Okay, so that's good. So I hope after this talk, we'll see in the next year, we'll see a little bit more hands up. So first of all, a few words about Payworks. Payworks got founded only 6 years ago. We started the company in Munich. We have 4 offices globally, Munich, London, New York, and we're building a development center in Barcelona right now. We are a payment gateway technology company. So we are building a global payment gateway for the point of sale. Just end of last year, Visa joined our set of investors. Is now a shareholder in the company. The question is now, why do you need another payment gateway? And the reason is pretty simple. So if you look at how the point of sale space 30 years ago looked like, and you were a merchant and you were basically looking for a point of sale solution, you had a certain number of options. And those were usually very big companies that charged a lot of money for the point of sale system, which does all the product management for you in the store. Today, that landscape looks very much different. So it doesn't even look like this on the slide. There's much more point of sale providers out there. And basically every day, there are developers building point of sale solutions for merchants in very, very specific verticals. And the problem was that the traditional point-of-sale gateway technology wasn't really built to cater with this level of innovation. Yeah, we heard it before, like 30 years ago, somebody put out the water pipes for point-of-sale processing, and ever since then, nobody took them out and renewed them. So the existing point-of-sale gateways, to a very large extent, are locally hosted. They were not built to integrate with new point-of-sale solutions, with new mobile point-of-sale solutions, but also with omni-channel solutions. They are usually limited to a certain geography or even to a certain merchant category. So we basically came up with a gateway technology that is catering to the requirements at the point of sale of today. So we took this whole concept of a payment gateway for the point of sale, put it into the cloud, and made it a very, very developer-friendly experience so that all those integrators can integrate payments into their solutions very, very easily. So this is basically how it looks like any other gateway. On the right, you have many connectors globally. We're connecting both to acquirers on a global level, both in the US, Europe, Africa, also DCC providers, alternative payment schemes. And on the left side, we provide a payment terminal agnostic gateway so that in the end, the developer can basically choose which kind of terminal they want to use. The difference about Payworks as compared to other providers is that we don't provide the solution to merchants ourselves, but we are partnering with companies that are using our technology in order to serve their merchant better. And those are just a few examples. So we have a number of the largest providers in the world using our technology to serve merchants with a superior point-of-sale gateway technology. So today, 6 years after we founded the company, we have around 50 clients that are processing transactions for their merchants, and that's all point-of-sale transactions in 21 different countries across Europe, Africa, and the US, and everything on one single platform. And we heard it before from Peter as well. This is something that is damn hard. And today I want to talk a little bit about the design principles that went into our technology that enabled us to do that in such a short period of time. So, and I want to start with integration technology. So basically, what we realized very early on, even before we started the company, that the e-commerce space has developed at a very good pace in terms of providing value to developers so that developers can super easy integrate payments into their web applications. In a very easy fashion, without talking to anybody, they can put payments into their app and then just test. Yeah? For the point of sale space, this really didn't exist. Yeah? And that is something that we didn't understand back then. So we tried to fix it. So basically, we set out and built a platform that is built with developers in mind, and basically starting from the developer. So because if we think about who is going to drive innovation at the point of sale going forward, it's not going to be the payment companies. It's not going to be the acquirers. It's not going to be the schemes, but it's the developers and the companies that are really building the point of sale solutions for the merchants and that are really understanding the merchants. So we set out and built a platform for those developers who are driving innovation at the point of sale. That basically means we have multiple SDKs for the different operating systems. We have a super easy API that allows for very quick integration. And then we have the same integration logic for multiple terminal vendors, yeah, which is something that we think is very important, because you don't want to be tied to a certain terminal manufacturer. You don't want to be tied to a certain terminal type. You just want to make payment acceptance easy and seamless. I'm going to give a few examples on how we implemented this philosophy on our system. So basically, well, we have a 5-minute integration, and everybody's going to tell you when they talk about their gateway that it's easy to integrate. But if you look at this, integration is not the hardest point in getting your payment solution up and running in your app. So actually, in fact, if you look at all the legacy systems, it was pretty hard to get the API at first. It was pretty hard to get this NDA signed and get the wrong PDF that you then figure out is wrong and until you get the right specification in order to do the integration. So what we did is basically, for us, the easy integration part is only step 5. So what we built is a completely self-service onboarding setup for developers. You could basically get up at 12 o'clock at night, sign up on the Payworks platform, and then get an integration done without talking to anybody. Very similar what you have in the e-commerce world. So you start with the registration. You basically create an application on our system automatically. There's a welcome message that gives you the instruction what you need to do next. So you basically order a developer kit. So we provide a developer kit that consists of a test terminal plus a credit card, or like a card that is coming from us, a test card that reacts to different amounts, so that you can test basically every behavior. You can also do a mock integration where you don't need a terminal for, and then all by yourself you create a merchant on your platform or on our platform, and then you start with the integration. So basically, this whole process of talking to somebody and understanding how you can use the API, of getting a PDF, of signing an NDA, which is basically what we were used to in that industry, for a reason, we completely eliminated and made it all self-service. Another example is data. And basically, we are providing the developer with a whole set of data in real time. So when you do a transaction, you get a direct response if you want that. You don't need to take that, but you get a direct response with the entire transaction payload. And we are providing you that in the form of a webhook. So basically, as a transaction happens, you receive a whole lot of information to an endpoint of your choice, where we give you the transaction information and much, much more. So what companies can do with this, and I'll give you one example of an integrator that used that in a quite nice way. For example, analyze the shopping behavior of distinct shoppers. So what we sent with this is a unique shopper identifier, so that this is a company out of South Africa that is using our system. And they're using this information to show the merchant how many recurring customers he has. This is something that is completely normal for e-commerce, and this is actually something that e-commerce providers and e-commerce merchants are optimizing on. But for the point of sale space, we were completely blind. So the only way to identify recurring customers was if you gave them a loyalty card. This was a quite expensive way. And now if you encourage card payment and if you're using our API, you can build that in a much, much easier way. Basically, out of the box in the merchant dashboard or even in the point of sale itself, you can directly indicate whether it's a recurring customer or not. You can track certain marketing initiatives. You can understand how well your business is doing, which is just a very, very simple thing, actually, by opening up the entire API to get data out of the system without any effort. So we have around little bit over 100 ISVs integrated into our platform. It's getting more and more every week, basically. And this is from all different industries, yeah? From really retail multi-lane setups up until the small merchant that is using a mobile point of sale solution. Yeah? Restaurant, transportation, all sorts of ISVs are integrated in our platform. Via different partners, of course. Yeah? So the second thing I want to talk about is system automation. So, and what we're doing there is, and if you look at how terminal management systems developed over the years, there were a lot of manual processes involved because there was just not the ability to remotely update configurations, to kind of remotely update terminals, and this is something that from the very beginning we tried to do in a very automated way. So everything that was possible to automate and possible to get rid of the manual process, we basically did. And an example for this is also, again, very normal for an e-commerce gateway. So those of you who are very much involved in e-commerce will say, hey, what's new? But for the point of sale space, this is something relatively new and something that hasn't been there before. So if you look on the left, those are some of our integrations all over the world. And now I want to show you through what happens if you're changing from one acquirer to another acquirer on our gateway. So this is the UI of the processing path change on our gateway manager. Oops.
Not that UI.
Yeah, this is not it. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So this is the UI. So and what you basically do is you just choose on the drop-down, you choose the respective acquirer you want to process with, and then we automatically change the input that you need in order to route the transaction to that respective acquirer. But in addition to that, we automatically in the background select the right terminal configuration and with the next transaction, or if the integrator does a configuration update call, or like an update call to our API, we are updating the terminal configuration remotely. So there's no need of changing, like collecting the terminal and sending a new one. We can do everything remotely. And this is only one application for it. Another application is DCC screens, or screens in general. Yeah? So on the left, you see a DCC screen. It can look like this. By remotely updating the configuration, basically also on specific merchant sets or on specific solutions, we can actually test which DCC screens work best, yeah? Or which screen setups in general work best. So we can be very flexible in deploying different solutions in different markets for different merchants. And we can do that all out of our system without any manual involvement. Number 3, open APIs. So that's something that is very closely related to our focus on enabling the integrators. So integrating payments is not only about integrating the card terminal, it's also about doing all the back-end integrations that you need to do in order to provide one unified system to the merchant. And that is basically how we set up the platform. So we have a fully API-based architecture. So whenever we are putting a functionality into our gateway manager that is used by some of our clients to manage the gateway, there's a rule that we first have to release the API so that basically everybody else could also use that functionality. So with our gateway manager, basically, we're eating our own dog food. And with that functionality, we're enabling our clients to completely hide our technology behind their merchant-facing solution. Yeah? So pretty much what we heard before from Peter as well. So we have a number of clients that are very, very strong in the e-commerce space that said, hey, point of sale is super hard. We need a technology that supports us doing point of sale processing much faster than we are in the position to do so ourselves. So we're using Payworks, but we want to remain the leading platform, and we just want to add that point of sale processing functionality to our existing setup. Yeah? And then they basically can use our APIs to remote control our gateway, to set up terminals, to delete merchants, to create merchants, but also to get transactions. And on the other side, obviously, we are sending them the PAN data into their tokenization servers. Others use our technology alongside their existing solutions. If they have existing point of sale gateway infrastructure that they deploy within a certain vertical, they can basically put our technology aside that and in the end unify it in the merchant view via our APIs. Another example is workflows, and this is mainly related to providers that are based on the smaller side, on the smaller merchant side or SME side. Basically, if you have to onboard merchants in a very fast and efficient manner, and you basically want to collect all the KYC data digitally and then board the merchant fully digitally without any manual involvement. So basically, our clients and partners, they're building their own onboarding workflows and then are using our API or our APIs to create the merchant on our system. We also have implementations where they basically trigger an email or a notification to their fulfillment provider just with an API call. So this next example is a client example where somebody or a company, a client of ours, was using or is using our technology in order to enable their e-commerce gateway to be omni-channel capable as well. So the company is ACI. They have acquired a company called Payon 2 years ago, which had a very strong presence in the e-commerce segment with the gateway that was globally connected and that served many merchants and many PSPs all across the world. With our technology, they made this gateway point of sale capable and omni-channel capable. So this is who's been working with this technology maybe knows that view, but this is the view on the on the gateway technology of ACI. And here on the bottom, basically, you have the reader list. In this view, there's no readers present, but they could seamlessly just integrate this functionality into their gateway, and the merchants are just using this gateway as the one entry point, and they don't even realize that there's another technology in the background. This is how it looks if a processing path is added. So you saw the model on our gateway manager. This is just another implementation. So with this technology, basically a fully API-based platform that is very developer-focused, we've been able to roll this out to around 50 clients, as I mentioned in the beginning, in many different countries for many different merchant verticals. And for us personally, this is something that is super exciting for us to really understand that on the one side, you have the small ice cream seller in Cape Town using our technology. On the other side, you have big stadiums in the US or restaurants in Berlin or transportation companies in the UK using exactly the same platform to process payments on a daily basis. Good. So thank you very much.